Hey, Strong Girls. I'm Molly Herford, sports journalist, ultra runner, cyclist, and author, and founder of Strong Girl Publishing.
And I'm Dr. Sasha Gollish, executive director of Yellow Running Shoes, a researcher, engineer, elite runner, and your BFF who's breaking down the science of smashing barriers in women's sports.
Think of us as the intersection of science and culture for women and girls in sport. Each week, we'll dissect the latest headlines and cutting-edge research on female athletes.
Debunk myths about girls in sport. Talk about how hormones affect performance at every age, to the latest research in sports science around mental performance, nutrition, equipment, and so much more.
And we'll spotlight badass girls and women who are rewriting the rules of the game, sometimes literally.
Expect it to be nerdy.
And occasionally TMI.
But it will always be honest.
Whether you're a strong girl yourself or you're raising one, this show is for you. Welcome to Strong Girl Talk,
where sports science meets sisterhood.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Strong Girl Talk. I'm Molly Herford, joined by the amazing Dr. Sasha Gollish. Sasha, how's it going? Are you over your jet lag? Have you moved on from Worlds in Tokyo? How you doing?
I mean, I want to say I'm over my jet lag, but then I'll probably be up at midnight tonight, right? It's a 13-hour time change. It's just
she's not a friendly time change.
That is a hefty time change. I can't really imagine any person dealing with that in any kind of good way. And you were only there for a week, right? So it's also a tight turnaround to do to yourself.
Okay, so thank you for reminding me that maybe not the smartest thing I did, but I love traveling. So it was totally, and I'm a pretty good sleeper. I slept, so even if tonight isn't great, right? We've talked about this on routines and the tenets of life. Even if I don't sleep that great tonight, the last 3 nights will be great. So I slept for 9 hours on the flight. So I actually sat with Debbie Lowe, who's the executive director of the Canadian Sport Institute of Ontario. And I was just hey, just as a heads up, I will probably fall asleep. I'm going to try not to sleep too long because we land at 5 p.m. But if you need to get up, let's just climb over me. And she's listen, I'm flown with a lot of people. I don't know anyone that can sleep on a flight. And I was okay. And I woke up and she was what the heck? She's I climbed over you 3 times. I'm yeah, I have no idea. I had no idea.
Wow.
Oh, I slept for 9 hours on the flight. I meant to sleep for 6. I slept for 9. And then I slept for I was up at 4 a.m. the first night home, but I'd slept for 8 hours at that point. I went to bed at 8 p.m.
So you don't have any jet lag protocols or anything you follow at this point? You just kind of figure it out, or what's the key?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's sticking to your bedtime routine, right? So often on days like that when I'm traveling, I don't drink any coffee because your body then is just totally out of whack. Stay super hydrated, no screens, get home, first thing you do, text raw, landed. We kind of have a rule of no picking each other up at the airport. I was it's Saturday afternoon at 5. Will you come get me? And he did. Texted my parents, kind of let people know I was home, put my phone away. I think we watched a little bit of the mountain bike. Yeah, I watched some short track and then went into bed with my book. And I think it's kind of we talk about this offline all the time, just sticking to good routines. And I think you can kind of manage jet lag in a way if you have good routines. I think otherwise you have to have a total plan. If you have shit routines, that's right, I just swore for the first time. But if you have terrible routines, I think you have to have a jet lag routine.
I agree. Yeah, I think coming back to whatever form of routines you can. And I think we're talking about jet lag specifically, but I think that's true of really any kind of disruption. Honestly, what you just said is pretty much exactly how you'd handle post race too, right?
Totally.
If you just run a marathon or an ultra or whatever, you text the people that need to know you're still alive and you try to put away your phone and you try to stick to your normal routine, which might mean you have to kind of push to stay up a little bit longer because you're very tired and it's only 5 p.m. Or, and you still do your bedtime routine, all that stuff. Yeah, I think it applies irregardless. Okay, what's new in the wide world of sports before we get into, I'm too excited about today's topic, which, spoiler alert, it's goal setting. I love goal setting so much. There's a reason I've gotten to write the New Year resolution-y article for Canadian Cycling Magazine for 10 years now.
Because you love it. Okay, we will get there. But, listen, I saw a lot of goal setting, made and broken at the World Championships. So World Championships is over. It was I'm still riding the high of it. So maybe that's why jet lag hasn't hit so hard. From the gender leadership event, the sports science event, all the incredible performances. The women's heptathlon was just outstanding. The women's 5,000 was outstanding to finish it up. There were just so many amazing things. And the reason I bring up the gender leadership event was Alex Ohanian, who is the founder of Athlos, sent in a video of um, why gender leadership is so important. And he just, he left us with the line of like, when women lead, everybody wins. And it's just such a good reminder. So, Athlos, I went last year. Oh my gosh. So, it's a track meet for women by women. And so he also talked about, not just standing with women, but standing behind them. So he's like, yeah, I'm the founder. But then I brought in a whole bunch of women to be co-founders, and everybody who competes ends up as a co-owner, and I get out of the way. They tell me what they need and what they want, and like being at that meet, with Megan Thee Stallion last year, Kiara's singing this year, like it is a celebration of what track and field could be. So like one of my reflections from, and I think I said this last week, is like track and field is dying, right? It's a whole bunch of older people in the stadium. Athlos was young people, like so many young girls who maybe didn't do track and field or sport, totally inspired. So as you can tell, I'm like, you're pretty fired up about goal setting. Like I'm totally fired up about the whole like athletes. And so this year's theme is She Lights the City, which I just like awesome.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because I know one of your other notes is what we kind of talked about already on the pod, track stuff that hasn't succeeded. And it's very funny because I find this is very similar to cycling in the US, where there's all of these new, leagues and stuff that come onto the scene for like a year and really push this like narrative of we're going to do everything different and blah blah blah, and inevitably they crash and burn. And like I'm watching a couple very closely right now that seem to maybe be doing it better, and I hope they are, because I mean cycling in the US does need to change. And the same is true of track, as we said last week. But I feel like it's, there's companies that are doing it right, there are people that are doing it right, and there are people that maybe are a little over their skis, we'll say. And Grand
Okay.
Slam track is one of
Well,
them.
totally. And they're like 18 or $19 million. So there's a $13 million shortfall. Somewhere else I read it was like 18 or $19 million. So none of the athletes have been paid. But so huge challenge. But I think to the point, like young kids weren't going to that meet. Like I watched the first three, right? It was all the like diehard fans. And so like, a lot of my work and my research is like around youth sport. What do? We bring youth in to like participate in the research, comment on the research. And so like actually Grand Slam track, and it was the athletes, particularly the field athletes, were like, bring us in. Like you need us as part of the conversation in track and field. It's not just track. And Michael Johnson, he had a vision, but he didn't, by the outset, it didn't looks like he didn't want to listen to anyone. And I think about cycling, same thing, right? Like if you're going to set up a new league, the first thing that you need to do is get co-owners who are the current riders.
Yeah. Period. Like end of story. Like, or I mean, at minimum, riders, like retired perhaps, preferably not
Recently
retired.
retired.
I was semi-retired, retired. How do we put that? Like honorable discharge from the sport.
Yeah,
Um,
I like that framing.
putting that one
Allison
out there.
Tetrick actually is a great example of that,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Still in it, still riding, can't ride the same way she used to. Like she's had some challenges with injuries, but she offers so much, and like those events are successful.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. And I think, you know what? Maybe this is all also leading to like, I know so many women's events within cycling. Think about Rome Fest, Rebecca Rush has her private Idaho. Whitney out in Colorado is doing a big fundo gravel thing that's been really cool. There are just so many pockets of these women's events, and it makes me sort of wonder if, is the future female? I mean, we saw that with Athlos, right? Like, if you make it about the women and you really like light up the culture, the scene, you highlight that element and you make it women focused, it turns out that actually does make money, which at the end of the day is what all of these organizations, whether we, want to say it or not, are trying to do. It's
And
not like,
making money isn't a bad thing. Like we talk about
no,
that all the time.
exactly, exactly. I actually get really annoyed when anyone talks about sport or like whether especially endurance sport in the context of like, oh, XYZ should be doing this kind of out of the goodness of their heart. And like God knows, like I do a lot with Strongbow Publishing out of the goodness of my heart. Pretty much all of it, because frankly, we are not really like a highly profitable company here. But um,
One day, I'm like, I will do anything to make that the like one day now day. Yeah.
well, if I didn't think it would be, like I wouldn't have put this company together, right? Like at some point, we all need to earn a living, and I think it's okay to want to do that.
And celebrate that, right? Like, and I
Yeah.
think it's like particularly as women, like we're sort of like pigeonholed into like do it out of the goodness of your heart, and if you make money, that's great. It's like, but you wouldn't say that to a man. So like, why do I have to abide by that? Anyways, okay, we've gotten totally off topic, which is my favorite part. Okay, we're going back to rugby for a hot second, because again, build it from like the women's. So Canada's in the final. Canada's playing France. France knocked out number one England, which was just like, what? I remember like Brawl picked me up and I was like, okay, so Canada, England? He's like, no, Canada, France. I was like, what? So England will play New Zealand for the bronze medal. Game goes at 11 a.m. Eastern for the final. I think oh no, I'm in a conference Saturday. Of course, I'm not going to watch it, but I'll watch the scoring because, like, yeah, can't do everything.
Can't do everything. And I admit, again, I have not been watching as much as I would like to, but
I get
such
it.
is life. Such is life. It's
Did you
busy.
watch any of the mountain bike this weekend?
No, I did catch up on what happened, but I did not actually sit there and watch it. I'm very sad that I missed. Normally we talk about women's sports, but it was Nino Schurter's last hurrah, and I'm sad that I missed watching that because when you talk about a gracious champion, I do think of Nino.
Well, and the crowds. Oh my gosh, I've never seen so many people at a mountain bike race before. Like just sell and his last lap, they mostly like followed Nino. So like Soren Alan Hatherley, who won the men's race, like you got a little bit of coverage, but it really was about Nino. And just like he was like, whatever, like riders are like racing for whatever position. He's like, go through. Like I'm savoring this last lap. And the crowds were just phenomenal.
Okay, he won't listen to this, so I can totally do it. There was a Canadian racer who basically like sprinted him at the line,
Yeah.
and we had Peter and I had this whole discussion of like, I'm sure in the moment he was so like, he's going at 11 out of 10 and like probably was not thinking about it, but we were like, talk about like ruining like the photo if we're being completely honest.
Oh gosh, AI will fix that. Don't worry about it.
I guess that's true, yeah. But I was just like, oh my God, Canadians, come on, come on.
And we're supposed to be the nicest ones. Although the Japanese actually, I think, are the most polite people. We're like super rude in comparison. Um, okay, but on the topic of crowds, so I've been watching a little bit of the World Road Championships in Kigali, Rwanda. Oh my gosh, you want to have crowds at a race? So I raced once upon a time in Uganda for the cross country championships. It was a 2.5K loop. There were 10,000 people. So you had like 10 to 15 people deep on every inch of that course. It was incredible. And the same thing in Kigali. Like if you want crowds, put an event in Africa. It has been nothing short of amazing watching those individual time trials. They have drummers. So they have these African drummers sending the athletes out. I'm like, that would be an incredible way to start. So it's really awesome to see the African, like not just hosted in Africa, the number of African countries participating is bigger than I've ever seen. The role modeling for young boys and girls in Africa to see them doing something different, like yeah, I might get teary. Like it has just been such a wonderful event.
Yeah, no, it is very cool. And I mean, my gosh, you had that many people around to watch the individual time trial, which is
Right. It is
arguably
your least favorite event. Molly,
so boring. So boring.
I get it. Having like now watched like three out of the like six, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I get why like people are like they go off the men's and women's elites went off at 2.5 minute intervals. Like so boring.
There's just there's nothing to watch. It's them versus a clock. Like, yeah, yeah, drives me. I mean, I appreciate it in the context of
Yeah,
a stage race. I appreciate it in the context of the sport, but like, my God, you would not catch me watching a time trial.
I'm a sport nerd. That was like abundantly clear, like talking to people. I was in Tokyo and they're like, how do you know? So I'm like, I am just a nerd. Like one, I'm a math nerd, but two, like I am actually like a little bit of a sport nerd and like watch a lot of sports.
Yep, yep.
Okay. Goals. I gotta have goals in my life.
Well, also shout out to Marlon Reusser, who won the ITT by, I mean, Anna Vanderbregen was 52 seconds down.
And at 460 meters of climbing. 460 meters.
That is
Meters.
so impressive for Marlon Reusser because she is known as a time trial specialist, but 460 meters of climbing is not a time trial. Like,
No, it's a good point. You were better off on a road bike than you were on a traditional time trial bike, I
yeah.
think. I'm not that I'm not an expert at.
I think it would very, yeah, it would depend on the rider and their geometry and so many other things. But yeah, just super impressive. Yeah. And so I will say, I know you wanted to mention that you have cross-country running plans that we will include links to in the show notes. And I've been asked now by a couple friends to like race some cross-country like masters this season. I'm like,
Oh.
absolutely not. But it has been very funny because I see them now on the trails doing their intervals and stuff. And I'm like, better you than me. Um,
Okay, hilariously, our friend Caitlin actually messaged me and was like, these are so helpful. So, like, let's actually tease this apart because you'll have an appreciation for this. She basically was like, yeah, kids are having way more fun at cross country practice with relays. And, like, why are you like, just like step back for a second. I was like, why are you surprised by that? Right? Like, it is like, we're talking about like grade 1 to 6 is what she's, helping to volunteer coach. Going for a run is like, they're like, why are you punishing me? Right? Like,
100%.
right, like, and actually, like, if we just talk about it from like a physiology perspective, like doing relay races with them is like way better. It also gives you an opportunity, like, quite literally, my advice to everybody, like, having been the rabbit and worked many cross country meets, is like have a practice and have kids sprint and then make them run and be like, don't go out too hard. Because like the tears at the 75% mark of kids like being like, my chest is on fire. I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's normal. Like, you're good. Like, that's cross country. Like, welcome to what we do. Like, no wonder kids are like, I hate this sport. So, could we all just make it more enjoyable for kids?
Absolutely, which is our
Which is why I
whole
wrote these
thing.
down.
Whole
Yeah.
thing.
And then I'm nerding at a conference this weekend. It's true. I'm talking, yeah.
I'm still like forever just going to laugh at like this concept of presenting posters at academic like conferences because really I'm like, oh, so this is what grade 4 science fair was trying to prepare us
Oh, it's
for.
grade 6. Come on. Like, we can't cut and paste. Like, you have to like print it out on one thing, which is a little bit more grade 6 science fair. I
Can I
can't
make
have
a
a volcano.
volcano?
I can't have. Same human. Same human. Can't have a volcano. There's no table. There's only like, and I'm like, I guess I better bring my own like duct tape and pins because like, what if I can't pin my poster up?
See, this is all just so silly to me, but I love it. I love that for you. Okay.
I actually can like put a link to it in the show notes because I've like put it up on the web, which just will make you laugh even more.
Let's do it. I want to see. I really hope that it is akin to like my sixth grade science fair
It totally
projects
is.
where there's like, yeah, but are you using like Clippy from Microsoft Word to make your clip art and like
Well,
all
there's
of
no
your
clip art.
titles and
There's like
stuff?
actual scientific graphs and tables, but effectively, yes. Otherwise, Clippy does the rest of it.
Could really use some clip art on there. Just saying.
You're not wrong.
Get some Comic Sans 3D.
Oh my God, you're my favorite human.
Okay.
Goals. I have
Okay.
goals,
Goals.
ladies and
Goals.
gentlemen. Yeah, goals.
Um, okay, so again, favorite topic here. And it's actually funny. I've really been, I said I've been doing it for 10 years for Canadian cycling. I've done it for longer for our, like for my other podcast, Consummate Athlete, and for
Can we
my
just pause here for a
own.
second where I can apologize of like, why is it taking me this long to be like, hey guys, Molly has this other podcast called the Consummate Athlete Podcast, and she's so amazing. And I'm also just going to put a plug. That's also her favorite podcast host.
I mean, I'm legally like required to say it because I'm married to him, but you're my favorite. Um,
But you're okay. I've listened to your goal setting episodes. They're fantastic. Like
oh, thank you.
yeah. So, as you are.
I have a lot of fun doing them. But it is funny. You think of goal setting as being this kind of static thing, but I will say my feeling around it, my approach to it, how I look at it really has evolved a lot over the years. I mean, some of the principles remain the same, but even stuff like SMART goals that you kind of take as gospel, right? And I'm
Yeah,
talking about like the acronym SMART. When you actually start to break it down, it's kind of funny how quickly it can fall apart depending
totally.
on the type of goal that you're setting, or just be kind of nonsensical in context. So yeah.
Can you imagine post surgery? I'd set a smart goal. I would have failed. Like every week would have been a failure. Every single, and like then what happens? Then you lose your confidence. Then you lose your motivation, right? Like my goal is to recover from the surgery. It is, and like that sounds like a very loose goal, but it has like very tangible things associated with it. But if I had like had smarter goals, I would have basically started every podcast in cheers with you.
100%. And I mean, I think one of the big things I've actually, it's funny, I was just on a podcast earlier this week talking to this young girl about it. We were talking about sort of my athletic journey. And if I hadn't talked to my coach, David Roach, the week before, when we were talking about for another article about 100 milers and all this stuff, and he made this really good point that, like, for the most part, training, fueling, like the logistics of a 100 miler are the same for every person on the start line. The
Yeah.
biggest difference is your genetics,
Yep.
basically. Like,
Totally.
like training, yes, fueling strategy, yes, like how much of like, but so much of it is based on genetics. So before that, I would kind of tell my sport story, my like athlete journey, blah blah blah. I was like, oh yeah, I couldn't run a mile till I was 20, and now I do hundreds, and it's great, blah blah blah. I wouldn't be able to do that had I not had this ridiculous set of genetics that I happen to have.
Yeah.
I would have type 2 diabetes. I would be, I mean, we've talked about how much Mountain Dew I drank. We've talked about what my diet looked like. Like, I'm so
Stevie
lucky that
Lane
I
was
avoided.
disappointed in you as a teenager.
I don't know. I mean, bright side is I fueled. Like, I was
Fair
hitting the
enough. Yeah,
carbs.
you
I
got your
mean,
carbs in. Yeah,
I
you
was
got your carbs in.
I was very over the caffeine recommendations,
Oh
but
God.
yeah, had my carbs. All that to say though, like I think so many of the goals that people set, and I include myself in this, like at some point genetics is going to factor in, and
Totally.
it's just whether you make like whether you get the goal or not isn't based on what you do. Like you can do your absolute most. You can do what the current science, what the current recommendations are to get to that goal, and you might still fall short. And
Totally.
at some point, that's not on you. That is just your genetics.
Yeah, and I think also that like I, instant like we talked about, I can't remember what episode we were talking about this routines. I think we were talking about like the Instagramming of them, right? Like we've Instagrammed goals, and it's like, well, but stop. Like your goals actually, like yes, you need to put them out there, but you need to put them out there to like the people in your life that matter the most, not to the internet world to judge you, right? Like okay, but we talked about
Or to
posting.
applaud you before you actually get started on the goal,
Right.
because we all know, well, maybe we don't all know, the role dopamine plays in motivation
Oh,
and goal setting and stuff. Like you actually get a dopamine hit when you put your goal out online in
yeah.
the same way you would actually crossing the finish line.
Yeah.
So in your
We
brain, you've
also have to
already
do
done
it.
it.
We have to do an episode on motivation at some point
Oh,
too.
yeah. Love it.
Things that like live in Sasha's brain. But we'll focus on goal setting today. But there's, but there is a big part of like your goals are set based on your motivations, the external and the internal ones that you have, like extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. So, I don't, we also have to be sensitive to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so with all of that in mind, how the heck do we set goals that aren't just going to get abandoned after like a week or a month or a day?
Well, first of all, don't set a New Year's resolution. We'll just start there.
Oh, I love a New
Well,
Year's resolution.
but are you
Um,
really setting a New Year's goal? Also, like Shana Tova. So, like, here's my favorite part of like being multicultural and like embracing other cultures. So, like, I always see back to school as like, oh, it's the start of a new year. So, like, that's a new time to set goals. It's Rosh Hashanah right now, right? It's the Jewish New Year. Like, it's a time to set goals. I actually think Chinese New Year falling with like the Gregorian calendar New Year is such an interesting one because it's like it's actually like a perfect time to like recheck in of like did the resolutions that you set, did the goals that you set, like, are you actually able to fulfill them? Are they fulfilling you? And it's like a great time to check in with them. So, like, not to poo poo the resolutions, but resolutions are often like lofty without, tangible outcomes and things that, to your point, are often like out of our control. Where like goal setting, we get to take control of what's happening. So I
Absolutely.
want,
Okay. Love that. Love that. And also love your point there. There's so many times that you can kind of use for that like New Year energy. If that energy helps get you fired up, like
right.
fantastic.
Well,
But
where would you start with goal setting? There, let's put there.
Oh, okay. So actually, I've been doing a lot of work on this for one of the other places I write for, and I've been talking to a couple of different athletes about it. And one athlete was telling me about this fantastic idea about sort of creating almost your own like pyramid of greatness is probably the best way of putting it.
Yeah.
Where it's like the number, like your big goal is at the top, and then under it you sort of have like, okay, what are like the, say two biggest like things that would need to happen for that to fall in place? And then what are sort of the slightly smaller things? Maybe this is like even like here's your goal for the year, and okay, here's like your quarterly a few things, and then the like layer under that is like your monthly things, and then weekly, and all of this is on this base of daily things that you're doing to eventually work your way up the pyramid. And I became obsessed with that concept. So that's kind of my new like framework for how I'm kind of trying to think about it, because I I think there's maybe two types of like goal setting people in the world. And actually, we're probably both good to talk about this because I think we might be on the opposite ends given what I know about you not being a math person on my end.
You
Um,
know that the pyramid I've just made is to math by parts. Just
exactly.
okay.
As a non-math person, I actually am really not a big fan of goals that are based on any kind of numbers or metrics. And maybe part of this is like my pushback on like early aughts diet culture of like the old I don't even, I hesitate to even say it on the podcast what the formula for the ideal weight was and like that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I chafe at all of that. Also, I've just never really liked metrics because I think actually it's all kind of coming back to that genetic thing of like there's only going to be so much you can do at some point. Anyway, honestly, even with Stronger Publishing, and again, this is probably like a bad business owner thing, but I don't actually look that hard at our metrics other than to know what to pay authors out. Um,
Right.
because I'm not necessarily like in a position where I know what success even looks like with the numbers. Like I wouldn't even know what to call like a goal around how many books to sell or how fast to run a 100 miler because those like I can't really change how many books we sell. Or like I can't control how many books we sell. I can control how well I market our books,
Yep.
but I can't control the number that get bought. Like
Yep.
there's just nothing I can do about that. And the Manosphere podcast bros are going to be like, that's not true. You could get up an hour earlier and make like 10 new business calls if you haven't sold like five. Like that's not
No
how it
one's
works.
answering the phone at 5 a.m.
No one's answering the damn phone. No one is ordering 5 books because I annoyed the crap out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just like not a realistic way to actually do things. The Manosphere can bite me. However, so yeah, I kind of set these like slightly looser goals that can then be chunked into like action steps that would help achieve them. And actually, I just wrote a thing for Runner's World about like how fast can you run a 100 miler. And it was funny. I was like writing it out and I was pointing out, I was like, I've won 200 milers. And the one, I ran it in just under 24 hours and won it and set the course record. The other one, I ran in 17 hours and change and came within like a couple minutes of the course record. So both were wins and like course record or almost course record, but they were 6 hours, 6.5 hours apart. So like to set a time goal for 100 is stupid.
Well, for sure. Okay, so like also like pavement, trail, etc. Like there's so many things. So I actually think we're closer than you think in our goal setting. So for sure, there was like an aspect of chasing times, but like that's an outcome of wanting to be an Olympian. There is a standard that you need to meet, right? Like going to world championships. Like there's a standard that you need to meet to make the team. But so this, anyways, like here's Sasha Golish when she was, how old was I? 13. So I joined the University of Toronto Track Club when I was 13. And Ross Restuccia, who still has a track club in Toronto, unbelievable coach, gave me a piece of paper because that's how you did things. And it was like, what are your goals? And I wrote on it, I was like, I just want to be the best that I can be. And I remember him being like, no, but what's your time goal in the 1500? I was like, I don't know. I don't even know what a good time is. But like, who cares? I just like actually want to be the best that I can be. And like, that quite literally is like my life philosophy. And so like a lot of my goals are set around that. So, at times at the 1500, like for sure, I would like in the marathon, I was like, to be the best that I can be to make that national team, I'm going to chase a time. But to your point about pyramids, right? Like, which for me was math by parts, was how do I show up to this practice and give it my all, right? Like, and so some days I was like hit the pace. Some days I didn't hit the pace. Some days I like was below what the pace would be. And like, it's the averaging of that out. It's the consistency of it. And so, you know, I, there's sometimes where like those outcome time goals are really important. And there's sometimes where it's like, that's a really bad idea.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's probably when you're goal setting, I think it's as you think about it, like, can you see, like, is this actually going to be feasible? Is it
Yeah.
possible? Um, and I mean, like, also, I hesitate to say plan B, but like, what is sort of, if you're going to set a time thing,
Right.
cool. But like, let's maybe have some things that go under that that are like, well, what else counts as success here? Because yeah, the time for, the 1500 or any race or whatever, like there's so many factors that are going to be out of your control. Same with
Okay. So,
like we say time, and I think it's funny because people often say like, oh, well, I don't want to like they don't want to set the goal that's like win the race or whatever because that's like that depends on everyone else racing. But time is the exact same kind of situation. It's just like a slightly different, like it's a slightly different thing, but it's basically the same.
okay, here's a great example. And like, I'm absolutely gonna, anyways. So, Marco Arup finished second in the 800 at the Olympic Games last summer. In doing so, he set a personal best, an area record, and a national record. And in Marco Arup, like we actually were joking in Tokyo, like who wins the nicest Canadian track and field athlete award? And I actually think it's him, just for the record. His interviews are just, they are some of the best. And, in that post race interview, he's like, yeah, my goal was to like try and run a personal best. My goal was to try and get on the podium. And my goal was like to be the best version of myself out there. And so, like, by all of his goal setting metrics, it was a success. Okay, I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I'm not, Marco, I'm not laughing at you. In the background, in a chat with some Canadian athletics coaches, they were critical, right? Like if he had run the race differently, like could he have won? And it's like, back up. What's the goal? What was his goal? Did you listen to his interview? And if you listen to his interview, he hit every single one of his goals. And his coach agreed. And I just, it's those critics on the outside, like it's the man in the arena, right? They are up in the stands, and it makes me bananas listening to them. But like that to me is you have misunderstood what that person's goal was. And in doing so, you cannot celebrate. And you've kind of missed the point of what sport is about.
Yes. Oh, 100%. And I know you have some notes like lower down here that are talking about like setting goals for youth sport and how this can be kind of a big problem. And I do want to kind of touch on that before we get into even more goal, like how we do goal
Yeah,
setting, because I think it's really important to contextualize this for any parents and coaches listening, because I think the way adults think about goals should not be the way that kids think about
absolutely.
goals.
Do you know what the goal should be for your kids? Like this is what I think everybody's goal should be. How do you have the most fun possible? So everyone's like, oh, I want my kid to be like whatever superstar. Fine. To get them there, and this is Rawls. Ralston Miller, this is absolutely yours. I'm not gonna pretend that I'm stealing it. But if you want them to keep coming back, like if you want them to reach that tippy top, they actually have to keep coming back. And the only way that they keep coming back is for them to have fun. So the only goal that we should be setting with our kids in sport is like, how can you have the most fun?
Such a good question, and one I think we've talked about on the podcast, but like this is the reminder to parents and coaches that that's not just like a pithy like motto or like fun
No,
mantra. That is something you should
matcha.
actually fun matcha. That is something you should literally sit down, and
Yeah,
that should be the question that you actually
yeah,
ask your kid, your team, and listen to
yeah,
their answers.
yeah. Like it goes back to our sports conversation at the beginning, right? Like, right? How do you want to build it? You want to build it with the like who the participants are. And so like I actually think about pyramid building. So like how do you have fun? What makes it fun? What makes it not fun, right? And like how do we build those like daily practices that are like and it's not to take away from like working hard. It's not to take away from like working on skills. Like it's not this like utopian idea of fun, right? It's this idea of like if you want kids to come back and be consistent, they actually need to be having fun. So have that conversation with them.
And I mean, I think we also, this is very like Protestant, fundamentalist, whatever, this idea of hard work and like that our kids should be like doing hard work and hard things. Like, yes, comma, like,
And
yeah, yes, and like they're already really tired from school. Like, school is already probably pretty hard for them. And what we want to do in youth sport in particular, especially when we're talking about kids, like, say, under 12, we are trying to create lifelong athletes that go on to play the sport in whatever capacity they're going to go on to play it, whether it's, just for fun, rec league, whether they're going to be Olympians, any of that stuff. We don't get there if from the age of 6 they've been taught that it's all about the grind, back to my manosphere grumpiness.
okay, I'm gonna actually pull, and this interview comes out the week after. At the end of the interview with Stevie, we asked her, like, what are, your top three takeaways? And it's the changing body, right? Like, that was her number one thing, like, accept your changing body. And so, like, in that 12 to, like, let's call it 18 range, one of the challenges with setting goals is, like, you don't know what changes and challenges are happening. So, like, setting those goals, those, like, very specific time-based outcome goals are actually can be really harmful because then all of a sudden you're trying to like manipulate your body to do a certain thing, which is like we know where that leads.
Yeah, 100%. So yes, especially when you're talking about athletes that are in that puberty age when they're, or even just like when their life is shifting, right? Like
Yeah.
we talked about this in the beginning of the back to school episode. Change looks different for young athletes compared to how adults see it. And really, even going for goals or achieving the goals can be a scary change that is going to be difficult for them. So you might already be kind of like setting them off by even kind of pushing them to have these big scary goals.
Well, and they captured that in the British Journal of Sports Medicine article, which we'll link in the show notes. It's an open access article that like you setting goals for your kid. And like, let's be very honest about it. Like, it's often driven by the parents, not the kid, right? And even if you're like, oh, well, I'm having a conversation with my kid, like, how are you manipulating that conversation with your child, right? In terms of setting those goals, is like, these authors cited that like us setting goals for kids might actually be the reason that they drop out of sport. So like it's a good reminder of us to just be like really like aware of our own intentions and our actions.
Yep, and we say it probably almost every episode. Your words as an adult matter so, so much to kids. And it's funny, again, this young woman I was talking to the other day when I was on her podcast, we were talking about things we remembered coaches or teachers saying to us. And like, I was just making a joke about my hand-eye coordination for pickleball. And she's like, oh, I remember like the one time I ever got like a 2 instead of a 4 in terms of like skill assessment and like a thing was hand-eye coordination in 4th grade. And I remember the gym teacher and like I remember coming home sobbing and I was just like,
Wow.
yeah, this is like this stuff matters to kids. So if you set a
But
kid
also
up
those
with a,
positive moments, right? Like my
oh,
coach.
yeah, you have so many opportunities to create these positive moments
Yeah.
where you could have also accidentally created very negative moments. So keep
Words matter.
that in mind.
Words matter, people. We talk about it often. You're talking to two people who are like, yes, I'm a math person, and like, yes, you're the English major and like the literary person for sure, but we both are like, words matter.
Well, I think you might, as a math person, understand that words matter because math is very like the numbers matter, right? Like a 2 is not a 3, like even though they're very close together, they're not the same thing, right? It's very precise. Math has to be precise. Your language has to be precise.
And like math, you can make a mistake and rub it out and try again and apologize. You don't have to apologize to the equation, but make sure you apologize to the human in front of you. It has feelings. The equation does not. I'm not sure I have feelings, but that's for a whole other podcast and maybe for a
Yeah,
human
that's a
host.
very different podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of this said, it's funny because we often talk about if you hear any kind of goal setting stuff, everyone always says like process goals are way more important than outcome goals. However, the pushback on that is at some point you sort of like high level at like Olympians do not exist on process goals alone.
No.
Right. Like it's sort of that weird thing of like we do a bit of a disservice by pretending that outcome goals don't matter or like aren't really a thing. when they are very much a thing, and they shouldn't be the thing that if you don't get them, all is lost and you're gonna exit whatever sport you're in or like exit whatever like field of work you're in that you've set a goal in. But I do think it's you should have one. I think it can be very helpful.
I think,
Thoughts?
I mean, okay, so one, I want to just highlight Scatty Sports Psychology because once again, they have so much great information out in the
So good.
ether, right? And they talk about outcome, performance, and process goals. And, I am leaning towards I'm not the biggest fan of, but Malcolm Gladwell said, you actually can't have one or the other. You actually need to have these together. And I'm sure there's somebody else out there that I should find as a reference to talk about the interwovenness of them. Um,
I'm
but
so
to your
sad
point,
about that. So, just like a tangential side note, I'm so sad that we have to say that about Malcolm Gladwell.
that we don't like him anymore, or
Yeah,
what that,
exactly.
oh,
Because
well,
he had such a good episode like 2 months ago about how Joe Rogan is a terrible interviewer, which really goes to my manosphere point. That
yeah.
was just phenomenal. But then he went and did the thing.
Well, and he really sold women out. Like it was just like, oh,
Yep.
you're a bandwagoner. I was like, that's kind of disappointing. I hope your daughters look at you and go, Dad, do better. I mean, they're like 2 and 4, so like I don't think they have any idea. But focusing on the strength based, right? And
Yep.
like, but the interweaving, like, and I think to your point, like you have to have that goal. And like, if you think about an outcome goal is like I'm going to graduate high school, right? Like that's not a, like that's not a bad outcome goal to have, right? Like I'm going to graduate university. Like, and then what's the process along the way? Well, I'm going to take these courses, and then like along with that are some performance goals, like. Do you need to get, X grade to get into whatever program is next? And like that's where those things start to work together. I mean, let's now go back a week. I mean, I think Vanessa offered a lot about like self-compassion, right? Like what happens when you don't meet your goal, right? It's not, and I guess it shouldn't be this like binary bifurcation of like, oh, all is lost and horrible and like everything is fine. And like I see that so much with students, and it's like, well, how do we work with this? And but also like going back to like you can sit in the suck when you don't reach a goal. You have maximum 24 hours, just for the record. Major grievances in life, you can have a little bit longer, but generally speaking, you can have about 24 hours.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is important because otherwise we get far too into that toxic positivity mindset that I think
Yes.
we touched on a bit in last week when we were talking about body image and like this idea of body positivity and sort of the disservice that we've done to women by convincing them that if they're not experiencing body positivity at all times, they're doing something wrong,
Right.
right? Same with, I mean, same with any facet of life. Like it ain't all roses. And if we're pretending it is, or honestly, if you are getting every single outcome goal that you've set, I think if you're getting every goal, you're probably not setting high enough goals.
Well, it goes back to perfectionism and like a lot of the work from Brene Brown. So I think, like let's go back a step, right? Like we like know what these are: outcome, performance, process goals. Um, I mean, I love how excited you are about this. So I'm going to put it to you. Would you like to start with process, performance, or outcome goals?
Ooh, okay, well, I we've been talking about outcomes, so let's start there. So, outcome goals are really your big scary goals, right? This is the go to the Olympics, the, win world championships, these things that any of us can really kind of call for ourselves. Like it's calling the really big shot. I'm gonna get drafted to the NBA or WNBA or anything like that.
For our
Those are
music people, Juilliard. I'm going to get into Juilliard. I'm going to respect, I'm going to get into the National Ballet of Canada School. National, not, yeah, that, right.
And I should also add, like, it's not that these can't be for, like, I'd say the equivalent for, say, a master's athlete is, yeah, I'm gonna win Masters Nationals. I'm gonna finish Leadville. Like, these outcome goals can be for smaller events and races and things in life. They do
I'm going
not
to win
only,
OFSA.
yeah, they do not only exist for professional athletes or people that are like multi-millionaire CEOs. They do not need to be so lofty, but they are an outcome that, I mean, frankly, is just like not guaranteed.
Yep.
Yeah, performance is actually one that I haven't really necessarily heard of. Would you say it's kind of like an offset of outcome goal or?
sits between that performance and outcome. So the easiest way to describe it is a time, right? And so for qualifying for the Olympics, right? Like I think that it was 4:02.5 for the women's 1500. Hello, I'm a
Okay.
sports nerd, right? So your performance goals are like, yes, that's one of them, but like, what are the times that you need to be hitting in practice, right? Like, what are your like paces on like tempo and threshold runs that you need to be running? So it's this, they have they have number outcomes.
Okay, and I think actually I'm going to say people confuse performance
Yes.
goals with process
Yes.
goals all the time.
All the time. Yeah. Um, you've probably got some good examples of that.
Well, I mean, I think any of the numbers things, like we see this all the time in coaching, right? Like someone will say that if they want to, I'm going to say win Leadville, they'll say
Yeah.
their process goal is to increase their FTP to 280. And
Right.
it's like, cool, that's
Functional
not
threshold, people. Functional threshold.
arbitrary random number.
Yes, totally. Absolutely. Well
Or
said.
frankly, like for a lot of, I'm gonna get my weight under
Right.
175, whatever, anything like that. And people think of that as the process goal because it's sort of downstream from the outcome goal. But that is so not a process goal because it's like, cool, cool. What's the plan for that? And I think like when you ask what's the plan for that, this is where we get into process goals.
Right. And this comes back to our routines, right? So like if you're trying to like show up to Leadville and win your 100 miler, right? If one of your like you've got a whole bunch of strengths, like you eat well, you show up to training all the time, work's going well, family life's going well, but you're not sleeping well, you need to set some process goals around like I'm going to sleep better. And so what does that look like? Here's where you can get some performance goals, right? My new goal is to sleep 8 hours a night. To do that, I am going to put my phone away. I'm actually drinking Georgian Bay wild berry tea. It's very delicious right now. Not that I'm going to bed anytime soon, but like I'm going to have this routine. Please don't add alcohol into your routine, which is like a false way of falling asleep, which also please don't feed your children alcohol to go to sleep. But like to your like the process goals are like, okay, I need to become a better sleeper. I need to consistently do this. I'm going to try and show up 5 out of 7 nights a week doing this routine to go to sleep.
Oh, I love sleep as a goal. I wish I was a worse sleeper so I could set that as a goal and feel really good about myself for sleeping. Maybe I'll do that as like a thing I can already just check off the box.
Well, you play to your strengths. So, like, one of my goals recently has been like really focused around nutrition, right? So, like, post surgery and healing, right? Like, it's this balance of like, I'm in a state of like, I need to eat way less than I used to, right? Like, going from a marathon, like, training to like literally nothing. Like, the delta in the number of calories is substantial. And so, I have to be really thoughtful about eating really smart, right? Like, before when I'd be like, oh, I've got like a 2 hour run ahead, like I'm gonna pop a couple Pop Tarts, I'm gonna do this, that, and the other, right? Like, so it's around shopping for certain foods, right? And so like it's all shifting around like how do I get like the balance of the macros that I need? Like how do I get really good fats? I just had an avocado, like so buy more avocados, more nuts and seeds, more nut butters, right? How do I get like really rich proteins? I actually had bison meatballs last night. Oh my gosh. Good food, whatever you are doing with like your indigenous chefs, that meal was outstanding. And actually, I said actually on the last podcast that I don't like rice. We had this delicious red rice that went with it. So like getting better, like eating better carbohydrates. And actually the plums right now in Ontario. Oh my God, I've eaten so many plums in the last 3 days. Like I think I basically ate a quart of them.
A lot of plums.
But they're so good. I can't say no. But it's just like my goal has been how do I shift my diet as I'm in this like healing process where like the needs of like what my body need are very different than when I was training for a marathon. And it's been those are all process goals. So the outcome is there's no outcome goal, right? There's no weight specific goal, right? And there's no performance goal per se. It's all process goal. I guess the outcome goal is like to maintain a healthy lifestyle, right?
I was gonna say, yeah, to come back from the surgery like without having
Yeah.
like dropped in any of the healthy metrics that you had before you went in.
And I was so afraid of losing strength. Like, and I did obviously, like for the first 6 weeks when you can't really do anything, like it's normal and natural to lose strength. But, like in the last, particularly like 2.5 months, like the strength is like way stronger than when I was training for a marathon. Like I'm in the gym a lot more and like, okay, I've hit that outcome goal then. And it's become like I mean, Stevie's book has been great in reviewing it. It's like, just make the better decision. The Pop-Tarts are still there, but you don't have to eat them.
Or
Eat
like
the plum.
have half of one, maybe as a treat.
Okay, my dog actually likes strawberry Pop-Tarts, so like it's fun to share them with her.
Love that for you too. DW is in a cutting phase right now. The vet told him he's a pound overweight, so
Which for him is a lot.
it's a lot when you weigh
Yeah.
12 pounds.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's in cutting season is what we keep saying to him.
Okay. He's got to lose
He
8% of his body weight.
he does not care for that, by the
No.
way. He
Sorry, buddy.
says it was all water weight. That's his story, and he's sticking to it.
Too funny. So I put a story here from Oiselle
I was
about every
I've been
every
waiting for you to get to this. I'm like,
yeah.
tell me about this.
every goal has a past, a present, and a future, right? And I think we kind of think of goals as like outside of who we exist as a human, right? And not to say that your goals should be part of like your only identity, but your goals are part of your identity, right? And the reason that you're trying to get somewhere is because there's a story about your life from before. And when you meet that goal or don't meet that goal, right, it informs your future. Like I think about Brad Stulberg's The Practice of Groundedness, like be really intentional of like with who you are. And I think we often like divorce our goals from like who we are as a person. And like they're also then not satisfying when you achieve them.
Ooh, I really like that. And I think it's even just a cool practice to get you in the mindset of goal setting here if you're trying to kind of get to that point of like, okay, what's the next thing? Is taking the minute to acknowledge all of the goals that you've set in the past and how they went for better or worse, to be honest, because I think it's just as revealing, like the ones that we didn't make. There's a bit of a good question of like, okay, why didn't I? And being really honest about it. And some of the stuff is going to be, oh, okay, someone was faster than me in the race. Like that happens. Or like I had one that I effed up because I didn't have the emergency blanket in my pack because I was unaware of that rule and then got yelled at and had time deducted and lost the race. Like, but
Yeah.
I should have had it packed. Like, there we go. So I think looking back at like what you did well and like definitely making sure we're looking at the goals that went well and asking why they went well. Because I think there's a lot of people, if they actually start looking, they're like, okay, I had my best Leadville. We just keep using Leadville because it's a big race.
Yeah.
And like there's no there's no faking Leadville, I think is a good
No.
reason we use it. And yeah, it's 100 miles whether you're doing the bike or the run. It's at altitude. It's very difficult. You basically can't go in no prep and just count on your genetics to get you through it. It's going to be hard. Um, you could look back and be like, okay, what was I doing well that year? And you're like, oh, I did actually sleep really well that year. Oh, I did go to that race 2 weeks earlier, and I had a great crew person there, and this, and this, and you can kind of almost look through the goal and assess where what the good things were, and are you still doing them? Do you actually need to get back to them? Can you improve on them? So yeah, I like being able to go back and look at the past goals.
Well, and before you move on from that, I think there's two things here. So one, when we look at a failure, we often start in the negative as opposed to being like, well, what are the things that went really well and starting from there? Because there's often a lot in there that went really well that we can like celebrate. And some of it's out of our control, right? Like I think to UTMB this year, there was a ton of snow, right? And so if you weren't a great cold weather person, like kind of out of your, so like you actually could have had success except for like that outcome. And then I think the other thing that, and I am guilty of this and I learned it along the way, is that when we have success, we also don't reflect back upon, like, to your point, what are the things that went really well? Because you want to repeat those things, right? Like, it shouldn't be like, why am I blanking on superstition? Like, it shouldn't be like, oh, I did well because, like, there was a cornflake stuck to my left sock at this in something with Mercury in retrograde from the Queen's Sport, whatever, Queen Stage podcast. I didn't understand any of that. But like, what are the things that you actually did that like worked so that you could have success, and how do you repeat those things?
Exactly. And I think a lot of this also just reminds us that a big part of this goal setting practice is you're probably listening to this while you're on the run, while you're driving, while you're walking, while you're doing something else. But here's the thing. Goals don't really work unless we write them down in some capacity. And I will say, I talked to a couple different people, interviewed a couple different people about this, and I was asking them, what do you do to write them down? And some of them are very much in the vision boardy, like images up on a bulletin board and some words. Some of them are very much like, here's a Word doc with a full outline. One of them actually was like, I don't write them down, but my coach has them written down and we talk about them every week. And that was kind of a good reminder to me too that, oh, right, for some people, that actual auditory thing is going to work really well. So figure out some way that they are tracked and like whether it's written down or audio noted to yourself or whatever, you need to be able to look back, like look at them.
So like Post-its. I write my goals on Post-its.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, they often go in the bathroom as like the first thing that you see in the morning. Sometimes they're like beside my bed. It's just like a good, anyways, I love me a good Post-it.
I like that. I have.
All right. Anything else with goals?
No, I think we hit sort of a lot of the really key points. We definitely want to hear from all of you listening. Like, A, what are your big goals coming up? What or even what are the process goals you're working on right now? And also just like any other questions around goals, because we are sort of starting to hit that time of year where everyone's kind of starting to talk about it a little bit. So I am excited that we get to kind of be one of the first shows to have an episode about it before all of the New Year, New Me stuff starts hitting. So,
I hate the New Year, New Me stuff, just so we're clear.
look, I love any excuse for a makeover montage. Let's be honest here. So,
But I feel like when it's like New Year, New Me, that you have to like forget who you were. I don't know. I guess I find it like very schizophrenic.
okay, this is absolutely true, and it is funny. I just kind of use New Year, New. I use NYNY, New Year, New You, as my like shorthand for just the whole concept of goal setting, resolutions, etc.
Okay, I'm gonna make you laugh. So didn't know that that's what that I was like, why does everybody at the New Year write New York, New York? Yeah, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Sasha's brain is very linear. Oh my God.
Well, I think this also might be the slight difference between the elder millennial and the millennial in the crowd here. Because
I'm
definitely
fine.
NYNY is a millennial type thing, I'll say.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm crying. I'm laughing so hard.
All right, on that note, you can find us over on the Instagrams at
Oh my God.
wait, Sasha, what is your Instagram now? Is it still Escalish Runs?
Yeah, I don't know how to change it.
I was like, I'm pretty sure episode one we said we were changing that, but
I was like, I tried to change it to Sasha College, and Instagram was like, you don't have permission to change your own Instagram. I was like, what? Okay.
okay, yes, Escalish Runs. I'm at Molly J. Herford, and yellow underscore running underscore shoes is Sasha's yellow running shoes, and I am at Strong Girl Publishing as well. All right, with that, we will catch you next week. Thanks so much for tuning into the Strong Girl Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely head over to wherever you listen to podcasts and rate, review, and of course, subscribe so you never miss another episode. And head over to stronggirlpublishing.com to check out all of the books by Strong Girl Publishing's authors, including Molly Herford, Misha Powell, and so many more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.